He's headed. We're joined now by KellyAnne Conway, counselor to the president. KellyAnne, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thank you, Chris.
So we just heard President Trump say it's all working out very nicely, but in fact, as we've seen, there are protests across the country, and now federal judges have stepped in to at least temporarily block deportation of people who had come in who are banned from coming in under his order. Shouldn't that have been worked out before this order went into effect?
The judge in Brooklyn, the Obama appointee judge in Brooklyn's stay of order really doesn't affect the executive order at all, because the executive order is meant to be prospective. It's preventing, not detaining. And so you're talking about 325,000 people from overseas came into this country just yesterday through our airports. It's 325,000. You're talking about 300 and some who have been detained or are prevented from gaining access to an aircraft in their home countries and must stay for now. That's 1%. And I think in terms of the upside being greater protection of our borders, of our people, it's a small price to pay. I am told by the officials that anyone has been detained, if there's no further threat, if they're not dangerous to this country, they can expect to be released in due course, as most of them have already.
So the ones that are here will be allowed, if they're vetted, to stay.
You're talking about the people who came on aircraft?
Yes.
Yes, if they're vetted. It's a routine screening process that they'll go through. If they are not dangerous, if they're not a threat, then they will be disposed of in a case-by-case. Their situations will be handled on a case-by-case basis. You know, I was stopped many times, weren't you, after 9/11? I didn't resemble or share a name with or be part of any kind of terrorist conspiracy, but this is what we do to keep a nation safe. I mean, this whole idea that they're being separated and ripped from their families, it's temporary, and it's just circumstantial in terms of whether you were one of those 300 and some who was already on an aircraft or trying to get on an aircraft, as opposed to the over 3,000 children who will be forevermore separated from the parents who perished on 9/11.
President Trump says if we let refugees in, the Christians will be given priority. Here he is.
If you were a Muslim, you could come in. But if you were a Christian, it was almost impossible. I thought it was very, very unfair. So we are going to help them.
First, that's not true. I want you to take a look at this. As you can see here, in 2016, almost as many Christian refugees were admitted as Muslims. And second, President Trump is barring people from 7 countries, the ones you can see on the map, but not included on the list are Saudi Arabia and Egypt and Afghanistan and Pakistan. And Saudi Arabia is where most of the 9/11 hijackers came from. Why are they not on the list?
This list of 7 countries was offered by President Obama and his administration. In 2015,
well, that's never
Chris,
stopped you before.
Well, but hold on. In 2015, Chris, Congress passed the Terrorist Prevention Act, and what it essentially did is it identified the 7 countries, an expanded list from 4, and identifying them as a threat. These are countries that have a history of training, harboring, exporting terrorists. And one thing that's very important to recognize, that whether you're the Orlando shooter, yes, he was born here but went abroad, you know, was radicalized on the internet. If you are San Bernardino, if you are the Sarnoff brothers in Boston, these are people who traveled abroad, were radicalized, were trained, and then came back and did their bloodletting, their massacre here on American soil. It's no different really than what happened all across Europe. And so we can't just keep on looking the other way and pretending that there aren't people out there. There isn't a terrorist organization, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, otherwise,
no, but
who wants to...
KellyAnne, the specific question I'm asking you is Saudi Arabia, for instance. That's where the 9/11 hijackers, most of them came from. Why not block them?
The Congress and President Obama's administration came up with this list of 7. Right, came up with a list of 7. We're following on that in week 1. This president will certainly keep identifying threats and risks. And look, Chris, people can't have it both ways with President Trump. They can't say on the one hand, wow, he's not taking these briefings seriously, when he is. He has a presidential daily briefing. He is privy to information that the rest of us aren't, particularly the media. The political media aren't national security intelligence experts receiving briefings every single day like our president is. A president will always have information. Congress will always have information. The rest of us do not. And let me make very clear, these 7 countries, what about the 46 majority Muslim countries that are not included. Right there, it totally undercuts this nonsense that this is a Muslim ban. This is a ban on travel, prospective travel from countries trying to prevent terrorists in this country, from countries that have a recent history of training and exporting and harboring terrorists.
The president also